The Captain's Log Radio, with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss.
Hey, welcome to the Captain's Log Radio Show. I'm Captain Jonathan Moss. It's been a great week. Welcome to November. What a heck of a start to November for my family. We were celebrating my youngest son's birthday. He turned 3 over the weekend. And my rule at our house is we do not set up anything for Christmas until after we celebrate our youngest son's birthday. And so we did that on the 1st, and now we have a house full of Christmas. Halloween is over. It is now Christmas time. We totally skipped Thanksgiving, except for the little flag in front of our house that says Happy Thanksgiving. But welcome to November. And before we get started today, I got Captain Ritchie with me today. Before we get started, I want to invite you, as always, to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, the Captain's Log TV. So if you're on those social media platforms, the Captain's Log TV on all 3 of them, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So today with me, Captain Ian Ritchie. We just released an episode this weekend together. Cayo Collusion is the name of the episode on the Captain's Log TV. Dude, awesome to have you, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. What a great day we had that day,
bro. Let's just get right into it. Let's just dive right into the show. Fishing our home waters, an area where we both guide full time. And when we talked, honestly, when we set up the show, I assumed, and I assumed incorrectly, I assumed that we were going to fish further south, like in Melbourne or Palm Bay area. But you're like,
sometimes, I mean, you should know too, John. Sometimes you just have to go where the fish is at. And I mean, we were 100%. Fishing in 105-degree weather, and me and you knowing that spot, we know there's a lot of shade cover for fish to come through. The water's a little bit deeper in certain areas. Like one segment in the episode, you spotted fish in deeper water when we were expecting them to be in a mangrove. So, I mean, as a guide, you have to venture out. And I have to give credit to Captain Noah Miller, which you had on your show too. I mean, he basically took me under my wing and basically told me, hey, you have to get out and explore more waters, just not your home waters, because some days that's just not going to be the spot. So I was adamant. Go ahead.
I would say I guide from Ponce Inlet all the way down to Sebastian. I rarely get down to Sebastian. I rarely get up to Ponce Inlet, but I will cover all of that water. And that's, if you're not familiar with the East Coast Central Florida, that's like 100 miles. Right? That's a ton
it's
of
a lot of territory. But a lot of territory.
It depends on what the wind's doing, depends on where the fish are, what the fish have been doing. Depends on water temperature. Certain things, certain elements choose or dictate, that's the better word, where I'm going to go fishing, where I'm going to take my clients. And this particular day, we didn't go south. We went to Port St. John. We went to a place that summertime, I spent a lot of time in Port St. John. I don't like that boat ramp. It depends on the wind. If it's anything over 5 miles an hour, I don't want to.
Oh, you're getting tossed around. You're getting tossed around.
Anything other than a west wind, I don't want to be there.
Absolutely.
Simply because the way it's set up, there's 2 ramps, there's 2 docks, and there's no protection.
Yep, no wind cover. Yep.
But in this particular time of year, when we're there, middle of the summer, typically there's no wind going on in the summer. If you do, it's not going to be till the afternoon when the storms roll in.
Yep.
First thing in the morning, dark 30. And we're talking, we pushed away, but
well, if you know me personally, my favorite thing to do as a guy when I'm off is I go out there with my friend Stevie Didden. Credit to him. He's really taught me about night fishing, and I mean, you experienced it. I mean, if you get out there at a certain time at night, you can get rewarded very, very well if you know what you're doing out there. It's a little bit sketchy, a little bit dangerous, but I mean, it's just casting a fly rod in the dark and then catching something you can't see until you bring it to the boat. That's excitement for me.
Oh, absolutely. I've done a good bit of dock light fishing. I've done some. The most of it has been down in well, I've done it several places. Actually, we filmed one of season one of the Captain's Log. We filmed in Jacksonville, and we did dock light fishing. I think we pushed away. I don't even know why I got a hotel room because we left the hotel at like 2 in the morning. What a waste of money having a hotel room. We left the hotel like 2. We're on the water by like 3 o'clock because we had to get there, get the boat in the water, get all the camera gear and all that going. And we fished dock lights. And then the sun came up and we had the tide change. And we went and fished the flats to like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And then we were done. We had a killer day.
Yeah.
I've done some dock light fishing in Southwest Florida in Fort Myers area. I've done some dock light fishing. In fact, my biggest trout on fly, speckled sea trout, was with Captain Buddy Kirkhart down in Stuart, Florida, and we were fishing dock lights. Now that day we launched at like 10 p.m. and we didn't get done till like 4 in the morning.
And sometimes those are the best hours to fish.
I was hurting,
especially in the summertime. I mean, the later you get there
it's
at
cooler.
night, it's definitely cooler. But I mean, you can get rewarded doing some fishing at night. Yeah,
and
my mother was actually the first person ever told me, like, hey, you got to go fish at night. You got to go fish at night. Go fish when there's a moon up, because her grandfather was a charter captain as well.
Yeah, when you have those lights, now where we were, and it's the weirdest thing. There are street lamps up high, above the mangroves. And I don't know why. I've never been able to figure out why, because they're over the water. They're facing the water. You would think on this particular spot that the lamps would be facing the other direction, illuminating the ground on the other side, but it's not. It's the weirdest thing. But there's just enough light, and then you mentioned, it is more dangerous, especially in our area with manatees. There's not really rock piles. There's not really anything you can run into.
Occasionally, you get that gator too that's sitting below the water.
Yeah. So, other than animals, we have gators and manatees that you can run into, and then the crab traps. So you got to pay attention to those.
Yep.
But other than that, there's nothing natural like limestone or rock piles or oyster beds where we were. So we're not terribly, and we idle. We didn't really go that fast to get to the first spot. But you get there and it's dark, and you're using those street lamps. In other situations where you're filming or fishing under docks with dock lights, you're using that light to really hone in to where the fish are. Because if you sit still and you pay attention and you look at the water, you can see the fish.
Oh, absolutely. It looks like just big old rocks just moving slowly in the water.
Moving slowly. That's how you identify. That's how you know it's the fish.
And they move very slow there. You witness it. They don't go fast. They're slow trolling in there, and all they're doing is looking up at that light, looking for a silhouette to just eat on something.
Absolutely. So you were like, bro, it's dark. We're going to throw a dark fly. We had these little black flies.
First, I had to convince you to come out at night, because you were like, no. And I was like, please just try to do some light. You're like, I'm familiar with the spot. I'm like,
when you have a camera crew, and I knew they were coming from Tampa, I was like, it wasn't so much me. I'm used to getting up early and being out there early. That wasn't a big deal. But for the camera guys coming from the other coast, and then they ended up getting a hotel. And those guys are jokers.
Dude, they're so talented as well.
They didn't go to bed. They didn't even go to bed. They were out looking for sea turtles.
Shark teeth too.
Yeah, out on the beach. They did it all night. They got a hotel room. They didn't even go to it. But anyways, so we get out. It's early, and we're watching the water for these fish moving slowly, these shadows. And they'll get right on the edge of the light. And the fish know. The fish know that if they lay up, they sit dead still up against the edge of the light. Like when you're looking at the water, you can see where it's illuminating down on the water, and then there is a distinct line. Just like if the sun was overhead and it was casting a shadow. they're right in that dark shadow area because that's where they can hide. And
Mm-hmm.
then bait fish come by and they annihilate them. And even in
Yep.
the episode, you hear us talking about it. You hear us saying, "Ooh, did you hear that? Did you hear that explosion?" And the coolest thing is it's so dark, you don't know where it's coming from. And I love
It
that,
just
man.
sounds like cinder blocks being dropped out from the sky. That's all you
Explosions.
hear at night the whole
And you
time.
can tell when it's a snook, there's
Oh, the
like
distinct sound of it. Oh yeah.
like a sucking, like
Mm-hmm.
pop, like a big pop. And I can't replicate it with my mouth. But man, when you're out there in the water and you hear it, you know exactly.
It'll make you
Exactly.
jump a little bit. Yep.
So first cast, Jack wasn't even ready. And if you're watching the episode, there's like I'm dark, and all of a sudden the light turns on because Jack wasn't. I mean, nobody was expecting the first cast for us. None of us were expecting us to get you. You had a big
I
expectation,
was.
but the expectation is never. You never catch fish. You don't want. In fact, I can't tell you how many people I've gone fishing with. We're like, bro, you catch a fish on the first cast, we're gonna have a bad day.
Yep, it's
I
usually a
don't
bad
really
day.
care, but I just like first cast. It's dark. I gotta get my bearings. I knew exactly where the bushes were.
Hmm.
I've fished this spot so many times. It's one of my
Hmm.
favorite places to fish, but
Hmm.
I don't fish there. Usually I get there right at first light because when we're fishing with clients, that's a difficult cast.
Absolutely.
Be fishing in the dark with the plug, with the fly, with the rod you're not used to using. Okay. And then and I don't care how often you go fishing, those first couple of casts when you're fishing with somebody, a guy, you're fishing with someone brand new, you're kind of a little antsy. I get
Hmm.
that. You're
Yep.
excited. Your adrenaline's pumping. It's first thing in the morning, and you're
Hmm.
excited to be on the water. And so I don't want to do it, and I don't want to take them when it's dark and then they can't see. But man,
Usually I take
what?
it's the clients that usually repeat book with me, which I know I've been on a polling platform and I can see how they cast, and I'll just ask them like, "Hey, are you comfortable with throwing in a dart? Like, don't have to be accurate. You just need to know how much line you can strip out and just throw in the dark."
Yep, absolutely. Well, listen, I want to continue talking about this episode. We haven't even gotten to that first fish yet, but
Hmm.
we are quickly running up on our first break. So please stick around. We got a lot to talk about here on the Captain's Log Radio. Excited to have Captain Ian Ritchie with us today.
This is the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss.
Yo, 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 welcome back. I'm Captain Jonathan Moss. This is the Captain's Log Radio. I got Captain Ian Ritchie with me today. We were, before we went on break, talking about our episode together. The episode is titled Cayo Collusion, and we're talking about fishing in the dark. Okay, so we were talking specifically about that first cast. And I make my first cast, and you were talking about it before we went to break, getting adjusted, making that first cast, making several casts, kind of know how much line you can throw out before you hit the bushes.
Hmm.
And I knew where the bushes were. Fly hit the water. There's not a ton of water along the mangroves. There's maybe a foot. If the water's high, like if we get a lot of rain, or right after the hurricane, there's a lot more water right in front of those mangroves, and the water can push back towards the roots of the mangroves. But this particular day it was probably a foot, 15 inches max in front of those mangroves. So letting that fly sink, it wasn't a weighted fly. No, it wasn't a weighted fly.
No, it wasn't a way to fly. It was
So
deer hair with marabou tail with bee
there you
chain
go.
eyes.
I love, so it had a little bit of weight with the bead chain, but not like
The
dumbbell
deer
eyes.
hair, yeah, the
Yeah.
deer hair helps it keeps it up.
And so it's going to get wet. It's going to sink down just slowly. I was just giving it a second, kind of. I'm a huge proponent of don't pull it away from the zone. I know where these fish like to hang out. So
Mhm.
if you start stripping your fly in, or you start cranking your lure, start working your lure in as soon as it hits the water, you're quickly moving it away from their zone where they want to be, where they want to feed, where they want to hang out in ambush baits. So I give it a second. I always tell my clients that all the time. Give it a second. I can't tell how many fish I have had clients catch where they waited a second, that bait just dropped right to the zone and they ate it. So
Mm-hmm.
giving it a second, and then I go to get tight, and you said something.
I said, start working. I said, because
Yeah.
there's usually rocks. We know the area, so there's rocks there. So when that fly landed, it was a couple seconds, but I mean, we weren't ready. You were still pulling out more string because
Yeah.
you knew, okay, I can get a little bit closer. And as soon as I said, start working it, I saw
I
your
was like,
rod
oh,
get
I'm
tight.
on, baby.
Yep.
I'm tight.
Yep.
I'm getting
Spotlights come
tight.
on, and yeah,
And
it
there
was
we were
over.
off to the races. And I tell you, we didn't know, and you had said this in the first segment. That's one of the coolest parts is you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are clues. There are
Yep.
clues.
And that
If
fish was
it's
not giving us no clues.
if it was a snook or a tarpon, it would have jumped pretty quick. But snook could go down. They could
Mm-hmm.
pull and not want to jump. I knew it wasn't a tarpon. It threw me for a loop though that it didn't go straight to the bushes. And if it was a snook, like that's what I was in my head when I was trying to think about what it is. I thought this is snook. A would have jumped, or B, it was going to go straight to the bushes and
Mm-hmm.
break you off. Because those fish
Mm-hmm.
know where they're protected. They know where
And
structures
usually on snook at night when I had clients there or fish with my buddies, you can hear the head shakes. You can hear the
Oh
head
yeah,
shakes at night, and I didn't hear nothing.
nothing. That fish lowered its shoulders and it went straight down because it
Mm-hmm.
dips off to about what 8 or 9 feet in the middle.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it went down and it ended wanting to go to the other side. It was swimming trying to get to the other side, but man, we put some heat on it
Mm-hmm.
and we got that fish close to boat. And you both of us were all like, man, that's a redfish. What do you think it is, man? I think it's a redfish. And sure enough, it got to the surface and we got just enough light on it from the camera that we could see that it was a redfish, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
good redfish.
Oh yeah,
We
it's
didn't
one of the
we didn't
bigger ones I pulled up there.
we didn't throw it on tape, but I think conservatively it was a 40-inch fish.
40, 41 pinch to
Yeah.
tail. Yeah.
On an 8 weight
Which
versus
I thought, so I didn't tell you, I thought you were on your 10 weight because I told
no.
you, I was like, man, that's a good fish. You're like, yeah, not because I think you said off camera, now I know why you throw 10 weights here. So the whole time I'm thinking, okay, I tied blood knots at night. He's on an 8 weight. I'm like, please let me get this fish. Please let me get this fish. The whole time I was a nervous wreck.
Well, we got that fish. We got that fish
Oh
in the
yeah.
boat. And it was a beautiful, beautiful the colors, the orange and the copper. Beautiful, beautiful redfish. Indian River redfish on fly in the
Oh
dark.
yeah. In the dark.
Yeah. So we kept pushing, and you were incredible and let me just keep fishing. And normally when we buddy fish, we try to alternate. But you're like, no, bro, you keep fishing.
Yeah.
So we went back over, and again back to those lights, and I picked up a snook on fly. I think we caught a couple snook on fly.
Hmm.
And then I said, dude, we got to go to the other point. I know that other point's gonna have trout on it. As soon as
Yeah,
we get out there, I mean, what it was
we
quick.
know where they're sitting at.
Yeah, we got a trout on fly, speckled sea trout, and we completed the slam. And you said something like, "Oh man, my record's like 6:17 or something." I don't remember what you said. Sometime today. And if we weren't filming, we would have smashed that record,
Oh
bro.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because when we're filming, we got to get extra shots. We had a camera boat. They had to come over and they
Hmm.
had to get some pictures. They had to get some video. Got to get some B-roll, some extra shots to make it, pretty when we're putting it together.
Hmm.
And so you lose time doing all that. Um,
Yeah, we
and of
lost
course,
about 10, 15 minutes. You would have
oh,
smashed
of
that record.
course,
Oh
of
yeah.
course. But what a heck of a start. Then we switch because, man, I don't want to always be. I know I'm the host of the show, but it's not about me, man. I want to. When we go fishing, I want my buddies to catch fish too. I love seeing them.
I just wanted to experience the night fishing I do because I mean I hook monsters at night, and when I take my friends there, I won't fish at night because I tell them like, hey, I caught one before. I want to see your facial reactions after
Bro,
you
I was
pull in a big
grinning. I'm
snook.
still grinning. But we did. We switched. Sun came
Yeah.
up. We moved spots, and I got to get on the polling platform, pull you around, and we saw some fish. had a couple shots. I think we hooked up a couple times and they came off. But there was one spot and we were working the shoreline. I'm constantly looking to my left because that's where the shoreline is. We're on the
Mm-hmm.
east side of the river. And I'm looking to my left, I'm looking to my left, and in the corner of my eye, I saw like it was sandy. I saw this patch of grass, and it threw me like it was weird because it was sand everywhere. That's why we were fishing the mangroves. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you're fishing a flat, and especially on the Space Coast, we're starting to get our grass back. But these fish had to figure out places to hide and to live and to protect themselves from the ospreys and the dolphins when the grass disappeared. And that was really getting into the bushes, into the mangroves. And so I saw this patch of grass and I turned my head and looked at it, and there was like 5 or 6 redfish on it. And you made the comment of, I thought those were mullet. And I probably thought the same thing because we'd been seeing a lot of big mullet that morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at it, I was like, those are mullet, man. Those are red. Like, bro, turn around, turn around.
Yeah,
three
because
o'clock.
we got awfully close to him because I looked at him, glanced at him, I'm like, oh, it's just big mullet because it wasn't on camera. We did catch a mullet on fly and
Yeah, yeah, we did.
a pretty big mullet. And the mullet we have here in the Space Coast, I mean, they're giant sometimes, and they
Yeah,
look like sitting redfish sometimes.
yeah. So here we go. I'm like, bro, 3 o'clock, turn around. And you turn around and you threw at one. You threw at the group, and one immediately responded. I
Hmm.
love that response. That's as a guide angler duo where you're strictly sight fishing. You are making a presentation to a fish and watching that fish respond. That's what keeps us going. That's the old that
Yep.
fish turned on it, especially when for fly guys. And I've talked about this before here on the radio show. When you are tying your own flies, it's something you created,
Hmm.
and then you're watching a fish respond to it.
There's
That's
nothing like it. There's nothing like
so
it.
cool.
Fooling them with chicken feathers, I say.
Well, we had talked to me and some other buddies have talked about going hunting and shooting a deer and shooting some birds like a pheasant and
Hmm.
shooting a squirrel and coming home and processing all of those animals, harvesting those animals, not just to shoot them, not just to kill them, but to eat them, to
Hmm.
provide for our families, and then taking it to the next step and curing portions of those animals, tails, feathers, and then using those materials to tie your own fly and then use that to fly fish. Like, man, that's like full circle, huge
Oh
deal.
yeah,
I think that'd
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
incredible. But
Hmm.
you made that presentation, that fish responded and chased after it, but then it turned its nose. It got smart, and we weren't like far. We were close.
Hmm.
And so
And
the
it
fish,
followed us about 15, 20 feet before he
yeah,
decided to
it
zoom
could
off
have
of it.
just felt the boat. It could have felt us. It could have seen us because the water was
Hmm.
crystal clear. Off it went, and the rest just kept like daisy chaining, like tarpon on this
Hmm.
one little patch of grass. You made a second presentation, and one came alive. One came after you. One
The
decided
biggest one out the group.
the
Love
biggest
that
one
as
of the group.
love that being a guy when you have a client on there. You're like, I
Yeah,
hope the biggest one eats.
and that's exactly what happened. And he came up to it, and we're like, I'm watching it. I'm watching it from the platform. And it's just like, bro, it's like being at the Super Bowl and having
It's the
like the
best seat in the
best
house.
seat, the
It's the
best seat in the
best seat,
house.
best seat in the
And so
house.
I'm like, take it. Oh, here he comes. Take it, take it, take it. Oh, he got it. Set it. He set the hook, bro. The thing was, and then there's some stupid pole in the
Hmm.
water. And I'm trying to turn the boat around, and this fish, you're in the back of the boat, you're in the front of the boat, you're in the water chasing this because this fish is like doing circles around.
It
It
knew where
knew
that pole was at. It
it
knew
knew
exactly where that pole was
exactly.
at.
It'd been caught before because he knew how to
Hmm.
break you off, and off you went into the water to get unraveled from the pole, back onto the boat, and then we got that fish in the boat. Oh man, that was awesome.
It was
That
great.
was
Yeah.
and again, we had gone from sight fishing in the dark, looking for shadows, to then sight fishing on the flat, full sun, and still so exciting. Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I live for. That's what gets me out on the water every day as a guide and been guiding full time for 10 years to have those moments. When I was in high school, I played football, and I remember our coach would say stuff like tell stories of when he was playing in the championship game against Cocoa Beach and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, bro, how do you remember all this? I couldn't remember that stuff. But when it's fishing, oh man,
Oh
I
yeah, you
remember
create
it
some
all.
memories. Yeah.
Listen, we're going to talk more with Captain Ian Ritchie when we get back. Captain Jonathan Moss, and this is the Captain's Log Radio Show. We'll be right back.
This is the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss.
Welcome back. Listen, I want to start this next segment on our gear talk. I'm a full-time guide. I've guide inshore, shallow water flats fishing, Mosquito Lagoon, the Indian River Lagoon, and then bass fishing. I've been doing that for 10 years. It is crucial when I'm on the water that I'm handing my clients tools, rods and reels that can hold up to everyday abuse. And that is exactly why I choose Florida fishing products. I have been using Florida fishing products since they first came out. If I'm not mistaken, I was the first guide on their guide program. I am a believer in their products. I use their line, their distance braid, their fluorocarbon leader, and their reels. I've been using this stuff since the beginning. I've caught thousands of fish, offshore, inshore, nearshore, freshwater. I have to hand my clients a rod and reel, a reel that's going to hold up. If it falls apart, if the line breaks, if they're losing fish because of the reel, that's on me. So when I tell you, hey, these things are legit, these things are incredible, I mean it, because feeding my kids depends on people catching fish. And when it comes to the rod and reel, the reel that I want to hand my clients, I'm going with Florida Fishing Products. So if you're in the market for a new reel, check out Florida Fishing Products. My favorite right now is the Osprey CE Pro, but I also love the Bahia series. And if you're into bait casting and you're a Texas guy or you're a bass guy and you want to throw a bait caster, they just came out with a brand new bait casting reel. So check them out, floridafishingproducts.com, or at a dealer near you. You will not be disappointed. Trust me. I've been using them for a long time, and I will continue to use them for a long, long time. Thank you, Mr. Ty Nelson, the owner of Florida Fishing Products, for all your support and making a killer reel. So, Ian, back to fishing in our episode. Now, I want to move along with that as well. We got just a little bit more to talk about, and then we'll talk about your guide service in our area and what's coming up. But at that point, we had caught a boat slam. You caught a red, you caught a mullet on fly. I caught a red trout and snook on fly. And I had another spot. You had not been to this spot before. But I said, dude, we need a tarpon. And I know a spot where there's going to be a tarpon. And I knew there'd be some black drum in there. I knew there'd be some snook in there as well. I really wanted that tarpon because all we needed was one fish to have a boat grand slam on fly. So you're like, dude, let's do it wherever you want to go. So we motored into this little area. We swapped. I was back on the bow, and we had some shots at black drum. They were being black drum and ignored the fly. And we had a couple snook. I mean, this black drum, honestly, they didn't even have a chance to eat the fly. Those snook were just too aggressive.
Aggressive, yeah.
Really aggressive. Just running out of the mangroves and grabbing that fly and immediately wanting to go back into the mangroves to hide and ambush for the next groups of baits that came through. Nothing really huge, but dude, who cares, man? I just like tugging on them and having a day to have a day off to go fishing, putting fish in the boat. Heck yeah. And we saw them. I knew they'd be there. We saw this tarpon rolling in the corner. And we swapped. I had a couple shots at the tarpon, couple swipes, nothing really committed hard. And so we swapped because honestly, man, I wanted you to catch tarpon. I know those fish are like your
Those are
favorite.
special. Yep, those are
They're
special to
special to
me.
you.
Yeah.
So we swapped, and bro, it was like a switch went off with you. Like I go back and I watch the episode, and you're focused. Like we were having fun, but you're just like lasered, like tunnel vision. I am not blinking. I'm watching this water because when you're tarpon fishing, you want to see them roll. The water's hot. There's less dissolved
Hmm.
oxygen. They're going to roll. They're going to breathe air, and they're going to show you where they are. They're going to show you where they're
Hmm.
sitting. They're going to show you which direction they're going. And
And
you were just
sometimes they're going to make it easy for you, or they're going to make it difficult for you. And that day they
that
were making it difficult for us.
they were
So,
making it pretty
and I
difficult.
actually enjoy that as being a guide and a captain. I enjoy the challenge of, okay, this fish is not going to eat. Okay, let's try something else. Let's strip it in slower. Let's throw a pause in there. Let's strip it in fast. Let's just see how they're going to react.
And we were also running out of time.
Thunder
We
and
had
lightning.
thunder and lightning in the area. It was getting dark all around us. And I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many summers I have been out on charters chasing tarpon, and you get so focused back to
You
tunnel
forget.
vision
Yep.
that you're not paying attention to your surroundings.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, because you're not looking up, you're looking at the fish, you're looking
Hmm.
at the water. You're, especially as the guide in the back of the boat, you are trying to like put your clients in the best position possible to catch these fish. And
Hmm.
so you're not thinking about around you. And then it's like, boom, it's thunder and lightning. And it's like, oh man, bro, we got to hurry up.
I
It's
remember
getting
you saying that. You're like, come on, we got to get one. We got to
They're
get one. We're
getting
getting
closer
chased
to.
out.
We got to catch these fish because we're about to get chased out. And sure enough, you made that presentation, and I watched that fish, just like that redfish. I couldn't see the fish, but I
Hmm.
could see the boil. I could see the
Hmm.
weight coming up behind your fly, and I just started getting giddy. I was like, "Oh, here it comes! Here it comes!" And boom, dude, he freaking smoked that fly.
Oh
And
yeah.
you set him, and it started jumping, and he wasn't big. Man, it was a
It doesn't matter what the
perfect little
size is.
silver
Yeah.
prince, man.
Hmm.
It was beautiful. And
And
when
it's
they're
good
that
seeing tarpon that size because the population is gonna. It's just
yeah,
booming out there right now.
and their colors, they have these purple
Hmm.
hues, they're dark back, that silver, just they're gorgeous fish. We got
Hmm.
that fish in the boat. We had the boat grand slam, and to do it on fly and to do
In
it
the
in
summertime.
summertime when the water's hot and the fish are moving
Hmm.
slow, and then we're running out of time with the storm. We got done by lunch, bro. It was perfect. It
Oh
was, and
yeah.
honestly, you had been, I can't remember. I want to say you've been a camera boat operator
Twice
twice.
for you. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, both times filming
Yeah, you
with,
actually seen me grow a
yeah,
lot in the fly fishing game.
you have come a long way, man. When we first met, was that 3 years ago? Maybe
Yeah, a little bit over 3 years.
something like that.
I was
And
just beginning.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And now you've come full circle where you're guiding full time, you're on the water all the time, you're putting clients on fish, you're tying flies, you're teaching people. That's huge, man.
Hmm.
Major props. Super proud of you, bro.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
But
it's
watching guys like you do it for a living, I'm like, man, it's time to live my dreams out. And sometimes you have to make hard sacrifice to get where you're at. And like I tell my friends,
absolutely.
like I can truly say I'm living a dream right now.
Oh man, I love that. I absolutely love that. So we got done with our day and we ran back to the dock and things you don't see on film. As soon as we got in and we ended the episode and we shook hands, what happened, bro? It started
Oh, it's
storming.
came, yep,
We
it
couldn't
came
see.
down.
We
Yep.
couldn't see where we were fishing. So we got just a few more minutes left in this segment. Let's talk about what's going on right now. It's November. We're coming off of summer. It was warm today. Uh, but we're going to start having the water's already cooled down. We've got
Mm.
already had a big major cold front. What is your expectation over the next month that these fish are going to do? Are you going to continue to search for tarpon? Or Still seeing some in your area?
We still see some in the area. I mean, you always get those clients say, I want to catch a tarp, and you have to explain to them, hey, it's kind of late in the season, but water temp's about 77, 78 right now. So you can find like the pocket we found, just find a little lagoon pocket, and usually they're rolling in the back. But right now, I transition to big old black drum and redfish. There's nothing like putting on your flannel, not hot anymore, and crystal clear waters and just hunting those big redfish. So during the wintertime, I love the big black drum and redfish. And putting Klein on black drum, like you just hope there's black drum because to me, they're the easiest fish to catch in our lagoon.
Hmm. Yeah, and this time of year, starting in November, I will find them big ones. We're
Oh
talking
yeah.
20, 30, 40 pounds
Do
sometimes.
you find them in a channel like I do?
I'll find them on the flats and just a couple of
Nice.
feet of water, and you'll find
Nice. Yep.
hundreds of them. Tails up in the air, waving at you,
Hmm.
and you can't even spook them. You can just go up there real
That's
slow, and
funny. I had a client the other day. We were fishing and he was catching everything. I actually took him to the tarpon spot you took me to, but we're seeing this drum. And he goes, I really want to catch one. He goes, where do I present the fly at? I said, well, let me put on this crab feature fly. And I said, I'm never going to tell you this about another fish. Hit him on the head with it. And he looks at me. I'm like, hit him on the head with it. Let that fly sink, hits him on the head, right in front of his face, and bam, he was hooked up.
black drum have terrible eyesight, so it's
Yep.
got to
Yep.
be right there in front of their face. And when it
Hmm.
is, if you make that right presentation, he's gonna eat it.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna eat it.
Always.
And those fish out on the flats, where there's hundreds of them, and then if they do spook or when they will spook, like when you hook one and they all freak out because one's going bananas, the amount of water that
It
they
pushes.
move.
Yep.
So I'll always say, hey, you fight your fish. I'm going to keep my eye on the group. So
Hmm.
when you're done, like when we get your fish to the boat, I have some kind of visual on where they went so
And you
that
go
we can
right
then
next to,
move
yep,
right up
go
to them.
right up to the group.
Yeah, and you let them settle back down. You give them a couple of minutes. You don't have to be in a hurry. They get happy. Those tails pick back up. They
Hmm.
start feeding again, and you go and you make your presentation, and you just
Hmm.
bring it right into them and watch them. And when it's real sandy, we talked about, the area being real sandy. Those fish will look for little black worms in our area. And so
Hmm.
throwing out little black fly
Hmm.
it can be a game changer because they have their nose down in the ground and they're rooting around, they're looking for anything they can eat. And when they find stuff that they like and they're happy, oh bro. Mm, get
It's a
ready.
guide's best friend to see
Oh
when I'm
man,
out
make
there.
that presentation and they're gonna eat
Hmm.
it. But like we experienced on the episode, black drum can be really spooky. They can turn their noses. If it's not right in their face and they don't see
Hmm.
it, these fish are not going to turn around and go out looking for it. Oh, what was that? It's not
No,
Louisiana.
they're going to keep going.
Yeah, Louisiana, you make a wrong presentation and go, what was that noise? They're going to turn around and look for it. But here, it's not that way. We are coming again up on our next break. It's going fast. I'm having such a great time hanging out with Captain Ian Ritchie. More when we get back here on the Captain's Log Radio.
This is the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss.
Hey, welcome back to the Captain's Log Radio. I'm Captain Jonathan Moss. This is our last segment. I've got Captain Ian Ritchie with me. We've been talking about fishing on the Space Coast, Indian River Lagoon system here on East Central Florida. And we've been talking about our episode together. And on this particular episode, we were fishing out of Ian's boat. And Ian runs a Cayo 180. You have the 5 degree, correct?
Hmm.
So I have a
180 ND.
Cayo. I have a Cayo on the way. I'm getting the 10 degree. The difference is the angle on the hull. So he said the 5-degree MV, which means modified V, and I'm getting a deeper V. 5-degree difference. There's not a big difference, but it's big enough in the skiff game. You think on an 18-foot boat, his boat is going to float skinnier than mine. He's got a 70 Yamaha, right, on
Mm-hmm.
yours? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get a 115 Mercury. So it's a lot more horsepower. It's going to weigh a little over 100 pounds more, plus a different dead rise, a bigger dead rise from a 5-degree to a 10-degree. So I'm a little bit more of a V on mine. So it can be a little bit deeper. Um, I've never had a boat with this much horsepower. Let me rephrase. I've never had a skiff with this much horsepower. We're talking double of my current skiff. So I turned 40 in a couple months. I told my wife I want to go fast. And so I was like, I'm gonna get a bigger motor, babe. She's like, all right, I don't care, just be safe. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be safe, but I'm going Ricky Bobby fast, man. This is gonna, a wide open throttle is gonna be like 55, 60 miles an hour. Which, to be honest, with clients, I will
That's moving.
never, I will never do that. I'm still gonna do like my 30. I'm still gonna be like looking for manatees. I don't want to run into one, so I'm going to be very cautious. But like we talked about in the last segment, we had a storm show up. We had a get, and we got out just in time. But having the power to be able to get up and go, I'm looking forward to that. I also do a lot of charters with me plus 3 people, 4 people on a skiff, which is a packed house. And so having a 60 currently, she does great, but she takes a second to get up on plane. A lot of weight, for that boat and for that motor. So having 115 is going to have a whole lot more power to get up and go. But how long have you been running your Cayo?
This is actually my first year for it. I wanted to get something that was just a little bit more silent that can run through chop. That's one thing I love about Cayo. Running through chop, put your trim tabs in the little spot that you need it, and dude, you don't feel anything. But
Yeah.
I've been on a lot of boats. I've been on the big brand boats, small brand boats, but Cayo, they impress me. And then the customer service, the people there, I mean, they treat you like family there too.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've gone through the process of building a boat, and this is the first time, my wife has been able to do that. When I built my last
Hmm.
boat, I didn't even know my wife. So having her part of the process has been fun. Building a new
Hmm.
boat is a lot of fun. And
Oh yeah.
going through colors and options and thinking through, okay, what do I need? What do I want? Is the need a want, or is the want really a need? Like trying to figure out everything, and being on a boat as much as we're on boats, I knew going in like certain things I had to have. Like number one, I told Jacob, who's the owner over at Cayo, he's been helping with the boat build.
Great
We're
guy.
specking it out, having great guy. Having, you get a build sheet. When you build a boat, you get a build sheet and you can pick all your options. Everything's there. And I told him, I said, I want 3 rod holders on one side. And he's like, yeah, just that one side. I was like, no, no, on each side. I want 3 rod holders. And I want them spaced far enough apart. Because, dude, summertime, you'll get you'll be fishing for 120-pound tarpon in the river, and you'll be
Hmm.
fishing for, schoolie sized redfish and trout.
Yep.
I want to take big rods and I want to throw them in a vertical rod holder, and I want to be able to put, an 8,000 beside a 3,000 series reel. I want to have them both beside each other and have enough space where they're not banging into each other. So that was something specific that I told him I wanted. Same with my cushions. Your cushions are permanent, correct? They're
They're,
attached
I,
to your
I
lids.
think, yeah, I think they're attached to my lids.
Okay, yeah.
No,
I
no, they're permanent. No, they're permanent. I take that back. My apologies. My backrest is the one that's removable.
okay, yeah. I don't want permanent cushions, and that's probably strange for most people. I like taking my back cushion, my back seat out.
Hmm.
I'm getting a backrest with a folding backrest. But when I go fishing with my dad, that's where he wants to be. He wants to sit or stand on
And I was
the
wondering that because I remember being one of
deck.
your camera boat one year, and you had your cushions up, and then you were standing there, and I was like, "Whoa, that's very interesting." But now you're explaining how your dad likes to be back there. It
Yeah,
makes
he
sense.
likes to be in the back and he likes to lean on the pulling platform.
Hmm.
Most of the time when we go fishing, we're going bass fishing. So not having a cushion to stay, like if you can get out of the way, you have
Hmm.
a whole lot more fishing space. So these are all fun things that you get to figure out and then go through and building a boat. You didn't build your boat. You bought yours.
I bought
Uh,
mine from another guide. It had really low hours on it. I think it had
yeah,
80 some hours on it.
it looked when I fished with you earlier this year, brand new, bro. You're
But
doing a great job.
I couldn't wait. I was getting businesses and I was without a boat for a few months. So I actually contacted Jacob and Rob and kind of got touch base with a guy up in South Carolina. He had the boat exactly how I wanted to be built and went up there and turn and burn, went up there, got it and came back.
Awesome.
And I
Awesome.
don't have any negative thing to say about the boat.
Well,
It's
we
everything I
started
wanted.
when you got your boat, I called you and I was like, hey man, so I'm looking at
I remember
Cayo
that
and
Thanksgiving weekend
yeah, and
last year.
I'm like, yo, give me the scoop, give me the inside. Because there are a lot of boat companies out there, and I tell
Mhm.
people all the time, people call me and ask advice for boats. And I don't think there is a one boat that fits every option that you'd want. So go out there and fish on every boat that would fit your need.
That's
Okay.
exactly what I did.
Find the guide, hire them, or if you have a buddy, and you fish with them on their boats and get experience on that boat. Because one might ride better than the other, or one might
Hmm.
feel more comfortable, or you might go, man, I really like the offset center, or man, I really want a side console, or no, I really like that look of a pure center console. So if you're interested, if you're looking into a boat, used or new, go get on as many of them as you can. And you were running the Cayo, and I was like, bro, we're friends. I need all the details. I talked with you. I talked with
Neil probably he has a Cayo.
Neil.
Yeah,
Uh, yes, he's over here on the East Coast, and I talked with Vince from Skinny Water Culture.
yeah.
And and then I had taken some guys. I know actually I'd met some guys at the Skinny Water Culture party at Christmas time last year who run a Cayo over in St. Pete. So started building a network of people who I could reference and ask questions. And that's the other thing. If you're interested to a boat, like try to find as many people as you can with that boat that you want that might have different options, different motors. Vince was running a 10 degree with the 90 Yamaha. You had the 5 degree with the 70 Yamaha. Neil has a 10 degree with, he's got a Yamaha. I think he's got a smaller motor.
Seven. No, he has a
I think
70
he's
on
got
it.
a 70 Yamaha.
He has 70.
But these are three different boats, different setups that you can get different information from. I talked to a guy in Alabama who runs the 115 Merc, and he loves it. And I was like, yeah, that's the direction I'm going. But
And just
having
and to add to that, I if you're gonna go out there and try boats, don't do it in the most perfect fishing conditions.
oh,
Go out there when
absolutely.
there's some chop. Go on a polling platform and pull that boat around and see how loud it is. If those wakes are gonna slap the boat and scare fish away. How because some boats are just heavier to push than other boats. So I always say go in less than ideal conditions and really get acclimated with that boat before you make your
100%.
decision of
100%. And if you want to experience, a brand new Cayo, you can reach out to Ian and fish the 5 degree here on the East Coast. You can reach out to me and fish on the 10 degree. Two different boats. They're the same boat in terms of the deck, but the hull is different in terms of the dead rise and then the weight with the motor. Depends on what your needs, but I cannot wait
You're gonna
this
love it.
boat. And then the three of us on the East Coast, we're gonna have like a sandbar day with your family, Neil's family, my family, and invite as many Cayo owners as possible. We'll have to get that set up once the boat's here, but I cannot wait. And I'm gonna race you.
Just You're gonna win. You're good.
I'm gonna race you. Oh, I know I'm gonna win.
Good. I gotta get a half-mile head start. You're good.
I'll give you 30 seconds. I'll give you 30 seconds. I'll catch up to you. But dude, before we end this show, it's been a great episode having you here on the radio show. How can people connect with you? Where can they go to find you? And tell me everything you offer your guide service.
So basically, my thing is fly fishing. I'm a fly guy, but I do offer light tackle trips too. Best way to contact me is on Instagram. Captain Ian Ritchie is Captain_Ian_Ritchie. You can DM me. I usually have my phone number up there too, or you can get in contact with John. John personally knows me. That's just the best way to get in contact with me. I love big tarpon fishing. So summertime, please book me. I love getting on 100-pound fish. And I also love just sight fishing, like you guys seen in the episode. There's nothing like going in 6 inches to 15 inches of water and just seeing a floating log just coming your way. If you ever want to do some sight fishing, I'm probably the guide that you want to book. And if I'm not available, me and John know plenty of other guides that mentored me, that showed me the ropes, and I'm a spitting image of them, and we have no problem passing you guys off to those guides that's knowledgeable in our area.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for Captain Ian Ritchie being on the radio show. I'm Captain Jonathan Moss, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Captain's Log Radio with your host, Captain Jonathan Moss.